Okay, so אני אומר כמה מילים. יעקב הוא מכר ותיק, מוכר לרבים דרך הקומיק סטריפ שלו שהיה בג'רוזלם פה שנקרא דרייגונס, שבו הוא מחיה מידי סטריפ את החזון של העצמות היבשות ומפיח בהם חיים. ומפגשה עם יעקב אני ראיתי שמעבר להיותו צייר של קומיקס הוא גם תינקר של הרעיונות שמאחורי הקומיקס והצורה שבהם קומיקס עובדים ואימג'ז עובדים, ורציתי לנצל את התובנות האלה שלו על מנת לעשות מפגש לחברים פה עם דרך חשיבה אחרת להעברת רעיונות ומסרים, שהיא דרך שבין האומנות הטקסטואלית לאומנות הוויזואלית, והיא מאוד מעניינת. ואני מקווה שאתם מאוד תהנו. ויעקב, if I missed something, and I know I missed most of the thing, you may add, and the floor is yours. What?
Can I subtract?
You can try.
Okay, so I'm doing it in English, apparently.
Yeah.
And I'm reminded when I came to Israel, I did not speak Hebrew, and I had come to Yerushalayim, and I came with just a few things, but I had sent what was called a lift with all kinds of things. And so I was living in Jerusalem at a Makaz Klita, and I was going to an ulpan, and one day I got a notice that my two lifts had come from America, and I had to go to Lud to get them. I went to Lud, and there was a big long line where I had to go, and I had to pay tax and all kinds of things. And then after I paid tax, they gave me 2 slips for my 2 lifts, and then I went to get them, and they said, okay, well, this one we put in a bonded. And I said, what's a bonded? And they said, that's a place in Tel Aviv, and you're being charged every day. And I said, I'll go there now. And they said, no, it's closed in the afternoon. And the other one? And they said, the other one we lost. And they said, well, why did I pay tax on something that you lost? And they said, well, if we told you that we lost it first, then you wouldn't have paid the tax. So I got really upset, and I left the building, and I went back to the Eged bus stand. There was an Eged bus stand. And I came up to it, and I go up with my new Hebrew, and I say, "Matai ha'autobus leYerushalayim?" And the guy says, "B'shalosh." So I sit on the bench, and I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and pretty soon I look and I see that it's 3:10. And I say, "Lo haya autobus b'shalosh." And the guy says, "Ulai yeh ba'arba." So I got really pissed, and I decided, enough of this, I'm going to get back to Yerushalayim. I'm not going to wait for the bus. I knew that it was a sharut, right? But I didn't know where they were. So I started walking from where this booth was, and I saw a cop. So I went up to him, and I said, "Eifo sharutim?" And he said, "B'toch habinyan." And I said, השירותים בתוך הבניין. And he said, כן. He said, אתה מארצות הברית? I said, כן. איפה השירותים בארצות הברית? אז אני ברחוב. יש כזה פול מקל, ויש שלט, וכל אחד עומד בתור, וכל אחד מחכה את התור שלו. מעניין, אני אף פעם לא ראיתי את זה בסרט. לא שומעים כל דבר בסרט. And so I started to walk back to the building, and suddenly I realized, and then I said, should I go back and tell him? I said, no, fuck him. I'm having a terrible day today. Let him, who knows, the next time he goes to New York and he decides to find where to pee in the street on some pole, so like he'll remember that. So I'm going to do this in English, if you'll excuse me. And basically, it has to do with something that I discovered and something that is fascinating and something that is maybe scary. And I'll do this presentation, which is in 6 parts, and I have never actually presented this that way, because normally if I'm invited to speak someplace, it's because it's like a meeting of a federation or a group of people or a group of tourists or whatever. And you guys are people who are interested in communicating rationally with the world. And you believe in the power of thoughts and the power of thinking and the power of logic and all like that. So I decided to put something together for you to show what it is that I've learned. Okay, part 1 is talking to human beings. Okay, talking to human beings is very interesting. So here is a human being, and we say that you want to speak to him, and he has the power of rational thought, and if you present a discussion, he will listen and he will learn. And as a human being, he has gone through life and he has learned various things. Okay? He learned at a really young age that you shouldn't put your finger into an electrical socket. He learned at an early age that when you go to cross the street, you should look in 2 directions. Okay? So as he goes through life, he learns things. So he doesn't have to get up every day and decide, when I go into the street, what should I do? Because there are automatic things in our minds that, like an app on your computer or on your smartphone is doing something, and that helps you get along. So he's learned stuff, and there's also stuff that is sitting there, like if he's thinking about life, and he says, well, when I die, I'll finally discover if there's life after death. Right? If his Uncle Harry died, he wonders somehow if Uncle Harry is still a coherent being and he's in heaven or if he's in some place. But if he's eating a chicken sandwich, he doesn't think that maybe that chicken is walking around in heaven. And why does he think that there's life after death? He didn't get up in the morning and say, oh, after chickens die, you eat them, but after your Uncle Harry dies, he goes someplace where he's permanent. Where did he get that idea? So there are two kinds of ideas, beliefs. One is the one that you've built yourself, and others that people have given to you. So when you're talking to a human being, basically there are two things going on. One is rational, independent thinking, and the other are memes. Memes are beliefs that live in your mind. Okay? So here are some memes. Okay? Cigarettes are bad. Alright, so we've been taught that cigarettes are bad. And so that is a meme that's in your mind. If you're somebody who used to be a smoker, you also have the meme that is, if you're nervous, cigarettes will calm you down. Nobody taught you that. That's something you learned from using cigarettes, okay? Jews are smart, maybe you believe that. Right? Crime does not pay. These are all different memes. Now, memes can come together to form belief systems. So this is the belief system made up of all these memes, and it is a belief in democracy. Okay? So it includes freedom of speech, it includes free press, it includes government of the people. Here it has the right to bear arms. An American concept of democracy would include that. Other places wouldn't. Over here, cigarettes are bad might be true, but that's not a part of this belief system. So we can assume that somebody who believes in democracy has this stored in their mind, and we can assume that if someone believes in democracy, they're going to believe in freedom of religion, they're going to believe in freedom of the press, because those are all part of that system. And every day we are confronted with memes and groups of memes. These things come to us through advertising, they come to us through what's happening in the news, and then you reach a conclusion and they begin to have that belief. And every day, you are being, there are attempts to store information in your mind. So that was part 1 of 6 parts. Okay? Part 2 has to do with the Yale Initiative for the Interdisciplinary Study of Anti-Semitism. So here's this group at Yale, and they want to deal with anti-Semitism. They want to deal with it in an interdisciplinary way. So we'll get a poet, and he'll come and lecture to us on anti-Semitism. We'll get a sociologist, and we'll get a historian. Okay? So one year they said, we'll get a cartoonist. So they asked me to come and to become a visiting fellow, artist in residence, and study the relationship between anti-Semitism and political cartoons. So, I've been in Israel long enough so that if somebody says, well, you'll have to do this, I say, "Ein baya," you know, I just do that. right? And so I thought, wow, this is going to be a snap, and I'll write a paper on anti-Semitism in cartoons, and it'll be fun, and it won't be too much work, and that's what I'll do. After all, what my job is as a cartoonist is to put ideas into people's heads. And I do it through cartoons, and I really understand cartoons. Cartoons are based on what I would call a metaphoric image. So here's a cartoon from a very famous cartoonist, Herblock, and here is a guy, a politician, happens to be Richard Nixon, and he's climbing out of a sewer. And here's the crowd coming to welcome him, and hi, ho, ho. And you look at that, and you see Richard Nixon is this dirty guy climbing out of a sewer. Yeah. You could say Richard Nixon is a dirty guy climbing out of a sewer. This has no impact whatsoever. But if you see an image, something really curious happens. When you see an image, it bypasses your brain's protection. So what happens is, if you are in a movie theater, and here the girl is tied up, and in comes the scary guy, and he's got an electric saw, and he comes at her, what you do is you close your eyes, and then you hear, ah! That's okay, you can deal with that. But if you had allowed yourself to see it, that image would be burnt into your brain, and you would never get it out. So for self-protection, you cover your eyes. Oh no, I'm not looking at that. Okay? And that is part of the power of the profession that I'm in. So I would not come along and say, hey, he wants to say Richard Nixon is a dirty guy and he's going to show it that way. That's part of the power of a cartoon, and that's the scary power of images, and maybe that's why a pestle is pasul, because it has scary power. Okay. On the other hand, I look at these anti-Semitic cartoons from the Nazis, right? And I say, it's rough. On the other hand, if it's okay to say that Richard Nixon is a scary guy climbing out of a sewer, so what's really wrong with stuff like this? On the other hand, I know that this stuff led to really bad stuff. So that puts me into a little confusion, both because of my feeling that we should have freedom of expression, and everybody should be able to communicate what they want to communicate without restriction. So how am I going to deal with this? So I thought, well, there should be a simple way to do it. And the simple way is to simply get a whole lot of cartoons that are anti-Semitic, get them all together, and then put them into categories and write a paper. So how to decide what is anti-Semitic? Well, I said to myself, it's sort of like pornography. It's difficult to define it, but you know it when you see it. So I decided to put together cartoons that each one I looked at and said, oh, that's anti-Semitic. And after a while, I had more than 500 anti-Semitic cartoons. Now what? Well, couldn't figure out what to do next. I had thought that this was going to be really easy. And then, as I was looking at all of these cartoons, I noticed this one from 1890. Okay, he's got a little Jewish star up there. Okay. And then I noticed here was something from 1941. And here's something from communists. And these are anti-communists. And this is something else. And here is Egypt in the 21st century. And here is Partners for Peace. And if you sit and you observe all of this, you begin to get the image that there is an ongoing thing here, and it's saying, strangely enough, that Jews are spiders. And that it has consistently said this going through time, through people who are speaking different languages, people who are extreme right-wing, extreme left-wing, extreme religious, extreme anti-religious, Christian, Muslim. Isn't that weird? And then I discovered this is a woodcut from 1900. And it shows a group of Jews, and they got a kid, and they have these straws, and they're drinking blood from the kid, okay? And then I notice, wow, India, the 21st, Jordan, Qatar, and this seems to say that Jews are blood drinkers. And that's when I realized that these two codes, one is blood drinkers, and one is they're spiders. What this says is, what are Jews? Jews, it says, are basically not really human. Okay? Jews, it says, are sort of creepy, disgusting spiders. Webs. That's what Jews are. And this says, what do Jews do? Okay? They are vermin and they drink blood. Okay? So this is demonizing, and this is zoomorphic. But both of these have an effect of dehumanizing Jews. And then, hey, I could stay here. Demonizing is eating babies. Zoomorphic is rat rather than spider. And then I went through the 500 cartoons, and I discovered, crazily enough, that there are 17 specific codes, specific images. Dog, mushroom, octopus, pig, reptile, snake, spider, vermin, vulture, worm. Okay? These are the zoomorphic animals. You'll never find a rhinoceros. You'll never find an anteater. These are the codes. And these demonizing are the codes. Baby eaters, blood drinkers, right? Now, this one is sort of strange, devouring mouth. So I didn't think these up. What I did was I went through these cartoons, and it began to be very fascinating. So, devouring mouth, what the hell is that? Well, if we go through these cartoons, look, from all over, this image of the devouring mouth. fascinating. So now I discover that we've got dehumanizing codes, which are groups of memes that say that Jews are zoomorphic, animal, non-human, and they do disgusting, terrible things like drink blood and kill babies and all like that. Altogether, this is saying that Jews are scary and not really human. And then I go on and discover that there's another set of codes. And these codes are stereotyping. Okay? So all of these are Jews with bags of money. Okay? Because Jews have money, Jews love money, Jews want money. Jews control the media, Jews control the world. All of these things are these stereotypes which are alongside of the dehumanizing stuff. And what does that do? What that does is it creates in the mind of the people who are seeing these images the concept of an all-powerful, all-controlling monster which will victimize you. Okay? Now, when a movement tries to grab a mass population, it has been noted that you don't really need a guard. But what you need is a devil. So with all of the Islamism we're dealing with today, you have yet to hear a positive message about Allah's teachings. What you hear about is infidels, you hear about jihad, you hear about the Satan, you hear about the threat. Okay? What that means is that what we have discovered in those codes is basically a virus. Instead of a belief system like those normal memes in the beginning, cigarettes are bad, cigarettes are democracy, does it include this, does it include that? This is a contagious belief system which is a virus because it is contagious and it is destructive to the functioning of the host. Okay? So biological viruses infect people, computer viruses infect our systems. There are all kinds of automatic things going on in your computer. But if you have a virus, the automatic thing that's going on is screwing up your computer. So it is if you have in society based on human beings and rational thought and deductions that you have made and things that you have learned, this kind of virus basically freezes everybody's attention on this monster. People are no longer able to hear your message. They are totally concentrated on the monster. What this means is that their own sense of self-protection has been destroyed. It means that an organization of gays and lesbians will have demonstrations against the only country in the Middle East which is hospitable to gays and lesbians. It means that women's organizations will demonstrate against the only state in the Middle East that has a level of rights for women. How can that be? Don't they see that they're on the wrong side? No, they don't see that they are on the wrong side. And any kind of essay that you write to communicate with them will be useless. They will not hear your rational argument because they are fucked up with a virus. Now, viruses and various diseases sometimes run into problems. They've gone their way. Everybody who was going to die of smallpox died, and suddenly there's no more host for them. This happened to this weird, anti-rational thing that we call anti-Semitism. This is what happened. What happened was that the world, suddenly you couldn't go around and say, oh, the Jews are going to victimize you. You turn around and see piles of Jewish corpses. You see Jews starved to death. You see Jews burnt in crematorium. You're not going to believe that Jews are a threat to you. The Holocaust made it impossible to sell the idea that Jews were scary monsters. So, people who were anti-Semites, who are essentially stupid people, what they did was they started to say, there was no Holocaust. It wasn't 6 million people, it was 4 of them, and 2 of them were only half Jewish. And they run around yelling, there was no Holocaust, there was no Holocaust. But we are dealing with a virus. And what viruses do is viruses learn to adapt. Viruses, if there is a Holocaust problem, then viruses have to develop a Holocaust-resistant strain. Okay, and this is a new family of viruses, a new strain of viruses. Now, this is going to get stupidly complicated. So I've made up charts for you guys. So if you sort of pass these around and give me the left one. Okay, so we'll make, if you look at these, everybody's got one?
Yeah.
Okay, I've isolated the 20th century codification. You see that? So there's dehumanizing and stereotyping. On the left, stereotyping, we have what I showed you. Okay. Blood spilling, death scar, deicide, blah, blah, blah. And then in the dehumanizing, we've got the devouring mouth, the baby eating. You see that? Okay, and on the side to the right, you have the post-Holocaust. Right? So, just so to keep that in front of you, and now we'll see how the virus is so much more clever than the anti-Semites. The anti-Semites were Holocaust deniers. What a joke. Everybody knew that it was a stupid lie. But this is burnt into your mind. This image is an image that everybody has. This is the image of the Holocaust. The virus would never say there were no Nazis. The virus would never say there were no victims. What the virus would do is say the Jews are the Nazis. What we have is moral inversion. We take this image and we make it the Palestinian kid. The ghetto is Gaza. The Nazis are the Jews. Jews are Nazis. And so we begin to see cartoon after cartoon after cartoon showing Jews as Nazis. The idea that Jews were herded into open pits and shot, and the lucky ones killed, and the ones who weren't lucky were buried alive, we have that here. Except that now the poor people being shot by the Nazis are in Gaza, and here it's dressed as an, moral inversion. And at that point, I sat down and I said, what the hell is going on here? Nobody is talking about this. I'm supposed to write a paper about this. This is fascinating. There are now 3 code families, and altogether there's only 30 images. This makes no sense. And so we discover here that there was dehumanizing and stereotyping. And it came from blood libels and medieval superstitions. And over here the Holocaust happened, and so a new family grew. Okay, that's that family. We're getting to part 5 of the 6, and that has to do with evolution of the virus. This is the virus as it existed in the 19th century. Dehumanizing and stereotyping. This is the virus today. It is growingly Jews as Nazis. And that means to me, if those of us who are rational and those of us who want to save our societies, we have to start looking at this problem not as a problem of having to convince someone of the truth. The problem is to deal with the disease. So we know what you do with disease control. You collect samples, you examine the way it's contagious, and you warn the public. So I began to look at different things like how the continuity, there's the vulture, there's the Nazi version, there's the Soviet version, there's a contemporary version. We could just keep going. There's Turkey, right, Iran, South Africa. The Chinese are really screwed because they think Jews are smart. So what they do is the really disgusting bird is going to drop missiles into this Gaza-shaped beaker so that the blood will rise and he'll be able to drink it. they're so intensely complicated, nobody could figure this one out, okay? And we keep going, right? So it means if you're going to look and say, is this anti-Semitic? It is anti-Semitic not because of what it is saying, but because of that viral anti-Semitic image which lives in it. So here we've got money, right? There's Nazis, and there's Soviets, and there's Palestinians, and here is one from America. Okay, this is the Chicago Tribune. And here is Arafat, and the Middle East Gulch, and here is the Jews, this is Sharon, and here is Bush, and he's laying down money. He says, Sharon says, on second thought, the pathway to peace is looking a little brighter. He's being attracted by the dollars, okay? Now, people argued about whether this was anti-Semitic or not. Okay? This is a picture of Arik Sharon. Any cartoonist would notice, if you draw a cartoon of him, that he has a little nose. Any caricature would draw a little button nose. What happened here? Why does he have this huge fucking beak? How did this happen? Is this cartoonist so terrible that he thinks that this is a caricature of this? No. This cartoonist is infected with this strain. Okay? And whether he intended to do it or not, and I believe that in most cases they do not know. I am not just an Israeli cartoonist, I belong to the National Cartoonists Society in America, and a lot of these people are my friends, and they would argue that, oh, what are you talking about? It's freedom of expression. So we have a real problem. Here's baby eating. Ta-da, medieval, and here's Nazi, and here's Palestinian Authority. And here is the best cartoon of the year of 2003 by the British Political Cartoon Society. The Cartoonists of England in 2003 voted that this, right, eating babies, well, that's not anti-Semitic. This is a parody of a famous painting of dip, 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 dip. Here's another one of the codes. You can now look here and you see baby eating. Yes, baby eating is part of demonizing. All right, and we also kill children in their mother's arms. That's one of the stereotypes. So if you look at on stereotyping, you'll see that fox killing children in mother's arms. So here we could just go through showing you from different countries in different ways how popular this theory is, killing people in mother's arms. We have here media control. This is a page in a South Korean book for children called Nations of the World. And this is a page about the United States. And what it says is, it cannot be denied that in America, all media is controlled by the Jews. It's the same level of it. In Iceland, it is very cold, and they have a shitload of snow. This is like a straight explanation to their children. Look how this has crept into here. So this is what I gave you guys, and with these codes in mind, you should be able to look at cartoons and incidents, and we should now have the power to be able to battle this virus. At that level, I want to show you two important incidents. This is a cartoon by Pat Oliphant. Pat Oliphant is the most successful political cartoonist in the world. He is the most widely syndicated political cartoonist in the world. Okay? I know him, Pat. He would deny ever being the slightest bit anti-Semitic. So here we have, this guy is wheeling a star on a cliff. This poor little lady's going to fall off the cliff, and here's the smoke coming from destruction. Okay, so if we look at this, we say, okay, Nazi, right? That's one of the codes. Babe in mother's arms, that's the second one of the codes. The Death Star, that's the third one of the codes. The devouring mouth, that's the next part of the codes. Okay? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 30 codes. Now what's interesting about this is if I ask you, what is the purpose of the wheel? The wheel is the most interesting thing in this. Because this wheel allows you to see it as him moving along, wheeling this along. If that wheel was not there, you would see the star floating between the two bars, and you would realize subliminally that this is an Israeli flag, which has reached you subliminally with these 1, 2, 3, 4 viral codes.
Where is advertising this caricature?
Excuse me?
Where is Pat Oliphant?
Pat Oliphant. He is in the LA Times and is the most widely syndicated cartoonist in the world. Okay? And of course, when he did this cartoon, the ADL said it's anti-Semitic, and he said it's freedom of speech, and blah, blah, blah. But until that time, nobody had analyzed these codes that I have found. Here's a second incident. This is in Cologne. This is a poster that was put up in Cologne. Okay? See, this is wood, and this is a photograph. Photograph of somebody holding up a cartoon. Oh, I have water. And the Israeli consulate said, hey guys, this is anti-Semitic. Okay, Israel embassy slams German anti-Semitic cartoons, right? And the Israeli embassy rebuked the public prosecutor's order for allowing this, and the Germans came back and said, what are you talking about? This is freedom of speech, blah, blah. And I look at it and I say, hey, this is blood drinking, this is baby eating, this is controlling stuff. And the more I looked at it, the more I said, wait a minute, this looks really familiar to me. Because I had collected 500 cartoons. And what did I discover? That this was a previous cartoon that had been redone. Okay? And so here, distributed by Al Jazeera. So here we have blood drinking, and baby killing, and baby eating, and controlling the governments, and here we have the evil Death Star. So there are people who would say, no, I'm sorry, this is not anti-Semitic. This is about Israel. Israel is doing these things. This is not anti-Semitic. Okay? In spite of all these things. And I would point out that if it had this, it would be totally different. But it doesn't have this. This is the cartoon, not this. And what this means is that there is a hidden war against our society and against freedom of thought and against rational expression, and it is being promulgated and spread by these secret codes that you have here. And that no matter what you are trying to explain, these people who are infected will be unable to hear you. So the first level, I believe, is that we have to fight this sickness. So when we look at our society and we see anti-Semitism and these codes breaking out, the anti-Semitism is just the symptom of the virus that is infecting people and making them unable to protect themselves against the anti-female, anti-gay, anti-freedom of religion, anti-freedom of speech. And so what do we do? What I've done is I've put up a library, a compendium online, secretcodeshiddenwar.com. You can go there and you can look through and you can see track cartoons according to different countries, according to different times, and will help you to understand what's going on and to be able to make reference to these codes. And there's also drybones.com, where if you go there you can get to that and to other things I'm trying to do. So that's what I've discovered, and the next step, I don't know what to do. I wrote a paper on this. Yale published the paper. Different people have seen it. It's in the library of Yad Vashem. And papers are papers. But I think if there is a group of people who are the target of this virus, and if you now see that it all comes down to 30 images, that's insane. That's totally insane. You would think that they would be able to come up with something new. But these are the same images, and I think I've done my part to bring it to you, and I would hope that you would figure out some sort of way to start dealing with this. So, thank you for having me here, and
Thank you. Let's